Good morning and welcome to our JROTC OnValues presentation. I'd ask you at this time if you would please stand, remove any color as the alma mater of Drew Dix Centennial High School color guard presents our colors. Please remain standing as we pledge our flag following the presentation of colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Ready, face. Forward, march. Forward, march.
Thank you. You may be seated. Welcome. This is an exciting day, an exciting event. Not only do we have cadets present and honored guests here, but we have cadets all over the United States watching online and part of this, student groups as well. I'd like to recognize a few who are here, and just so we can know what's happening, we have with us online from Logan County High School, the JROTC cadets, and their leader, Sergeant First Class Patrick Russell. You can see them joining us online. There's about 130 there, and we are happy to welcome you. So they're smiling at you, we're smiling back. Thank you for being part of this, and they represent hundreds all over. We have here in the auditorium with us, in the gallery, Centennial High School, JROTC, again, the alma mater of Drew Dix and those who presented our color guard, under the direction of Major John Freeberg. We also have East High School, JROTC, under the direction of Colonel Reginald Cox, Pueblo West, JROTC, under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Tracy Amond, and UCCS-ROTC is represented here with Major Derek Rondo, and CSU Pueblo ROTC is here with Don Cahey. So we are so glad. But in addition to that, we know for a fact we have participants in the following states, and there's probably more, but we know we have them from Arkansas, Alabama, Texas, California, Wyoming, Wisconsin, Virginia, and of course, Colorado. So this is a special event. We're so glad that you can be part of it. So you didn't come to hear me. I'm Liz Richard, and I happen to be the director of the Education Development at the center here. You came to hear our Medal of Honor recipient. But before, I would like to draw your attention to the photo that's in our gallery here right in front of you. And today, this morning, Colonel Roger Donlin passed away, and we want to honor him. He was in the U.S. Army, served in the Vietnam War, and I love the quote that he gives. It is, "What we are is God's gift to us. What we become is our gift to God." He was the first Medal of Honor recipient from the Vietnam War. Could you just bow your heads for a few seconds in honor of this man? Thank you. We want to honor our mission, which is to honor the extreme sacrifices made to help those Americans who gave so much, and make sure that that continues into our younger and future generations, which are so many of you watching and here today. It's a great privilege of mine to introduce our speaker, Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix. It was a desire of his to see this gallery and events like this come to fruition. We are part of his legacy, and it's such an honor. You are all in for life-changing words. Before he comes, please watch this brief video showing you a bit about the hero you will soon hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
For the final time during my presidency, this House is graced with the company of the heroes who have scaled heights known only to a very few men in this land.
The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress March 3, 1863, has awarded in the name of the Congress the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Drew D. Dix, United States Army.
Drew Dix is a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. As an Army Special Forces Sergeant during his first Vietnam tour, detailed to the CIA, Dix was awarded the Medal of Honor for heroic acts including saving lives, retaking important territory, and capturing enemy soldiers. He became the first enlisted man in the U.S. Army Special Forces to receive the Medal of Honor. Dix's military career continued for 20 years, including work in Greenland on a classified contract from 1985 to 1995 with the mission to establish ice stations on the Arctic Ocean to track Soviet submarines. Following the attacks of September 11, he was asked by the governor of Alaska to advise him on the strategies that should be used to protect the oil infrastructure in Alaska. He served as Alaska's first director of Homeland Security and retired from the state of Alaska as a deputy commissioner within the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. In a 2004 film documentary, Dix showed the humility and sense of duty we see so often in our heroes.
Anytime you receive notoriety or recognition in anything you do, your life is just starting. You should use that as a point to build upon, not just sit back on your haunches and kind of let life float by. Let's face it, if I'd done that when I was 24 years old, I wouldn't have done much since then.
His personal mission was clear: to create a national initiative to recognize and preserve the values our great country was founded on.
The founding fathers and those that fought in the Revolutionary War or were involved in the Revolutionary War, they were patriots, but not all of them carried a gun. I mean, they believed in their country. I felt that I needed to continue to serve. I'm retired. I retired from the military. I retired from another occupation. But you don't really retire. I mean, you just think of other things to do.
In 2010, Drew Dix became a founder of the Center for American Values, located in his hometown of Pueblo, Colorado. Dix's deep commitment to America and his passion for the core values of honor, integrity, and patriotism became the center's mission.
All of our vision is focused on family, community, and country. It's a foundation. If you don't have a strong family and a strong community values, you're not going to have a strong country. We all have an opportunity to serve, and some of us have raised our hand to serve this nation of ours, and others can reach their hand out.
Drew Dix will continue in his quest to honor people from all walks of life who through courage and dedication have made extraordinary accomplishments. Drew Dix is a selfless hero who wants America's youth to recognize and truly understand the sacrifices made by others by providing unique educational opportunities through the Center for American Values.
Doing great work over there. Want to thank my dear friend Drew Dix. Thank you, Drew, for all you do and for all you have done for our country. Thank you very much. God bless you, sir.
At this time, would you join me in welcoming Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix?
Thank you, Liz. I want to thank everybody for being here. You know, what Liz mentioned and what was in the video about our dream of doing something like this is an understatement. We feel very strong about being able to let young folks understand what it's like to be a part of a great country, not to take what a great country gives, but to be a part of it and help build this country and keep it the way it is, because let's face it, it's something that the world admires. After all, look at how many are trying to get cross the line over here to get in here to see what it's all about. They've heard it and they just want to see it. But I also want to thank our friends in Kentucky for coming here and being part of this. Sergeant Patrick Russell, friend of a friend, called and said, want to do something with the center. And of course, the timing is perfect. Timing is everything. In your life, timing is everything. And so here we are. And I thought it was very appropriate because when I was a young man, 17 years old, I joined the Army right here in Pueblo, down just across the street over there in the Vail Hotel was the Army recruiter. And I look back on that and I see the faces of these young men and women that are looking to see how they fit in this great country of ours. And I'm a big fan of Junior ROTC. And I am really proud that organizations like the Gary Sinise Foundation and Daniels Fund, one of our founding donors, agrees with us because it's making this possible. You know, I was raised in Pueblo. I had a great childhood. I was a kid. And I did all those things that kids do. And I have fond memories of running around the hills out here with my buddies, hunting, played little sports. I wasn't all that good in sports, but I had other things in mind. I like to ride motorcycles. You know, you could do that when you're 14 in those days. And I'm glad the chief wasn't around. He'd been chasing me around. But no, we had a good time, and we were some of the best memories that you are making right now is with those that you're starting your life with. But then at some point, you no longer are a kid. I hate to tell you, you aren't grown up yet, but you will be so fast. When I joined the Army at 17, I had a head start because of my association with Junior ROTC and the Army sergeant that was running our program over there, Sergeant Irwin, gave me the understanding that, okay, we're kids, but now we're going to start talking about how you fit in. In Junior ROTC and other programs like this, you begin to understand that you're a part of something. The world is not turning around you. It's turning around all of us. and how we involve ourselves and become a part of that is up to you. And it helps to be able to have that boost forward. Now, I was your age, right? And I'm looking back and thinking about these old guys that used to come and talk to us at assemblies and things. And what do they know, you know? But one thing we do know, we were kids too. We were young, but that fast, you grow up. Somewhere in your life, something will make you already grown up faster than those around you. Some of you already experienced some things, and that's part of life, good things or bad things. But when I joined the Army at 17, I didn't know really what I was getting into, and went on a bus and went up to Denver, took the oath, swore allegiance to defend the Constitution of the United States, obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers appointed over me. I didn't really know what that meant. And I got on a train and went to Fort Leavenworth, 17 years old. Basic training. We had a couple of hard stripers, they call it, that were in Korean War 6 years or so earlier that decided to come back in the Army. Guess who they put in charge of that basic training company and gave me 3 stripes? It was me, 17-year-old kid. I knew right then that I was no longer a kid because I had 40-some individuals that were looking up to me for leadership. And let me tell you, that was my coming out. I realized then that this is bigger than me because I took care of other people. I had to think for them and with them, help them out of problems. 17 years old. And I wanted to be in special forces. And I didn't read the fine print, but you had to be 21 and I'm 17. And I had to wait into the 82nd Airborne Division until I got the ripe old age of 21 to get into special forces training. So that's that. I got into it. But what I want to talk about a little bit here, and I'm going to cut it a little bit short because you guys are in school, you guys and gals, and forgive me if I say the wrong pronoun, because in our world it's sergeant, corporal, whatever. We're all the same, okay? Love you all. But we have got to figure out what it is we want to do with our lives, but you have the greatest opportunity to do about anything you want to do. And I encourage you all to do it as long as it's legal, right? Just do it. Work hard, you'll get there. There's nothing holding you back except yourself. Nothing. And okay, so I got into special forces. That's the career military, right? Every one of them are 3-time volunteers. They volunteered to join the Army, they volunteered for jump school, parachute out airplanes, and they had to volunteer for special forces. And so I went to Vietnam with them, and it was great to be, in something like that with folks that really can handle themselves, are confident, and I wanted to be a part of that. Being a part of something that you believe in there's no match to it. You're not cocky, you just know you're a part of something. The war was a long war, okay? So I came back being decorated by the President of the United States. Can you imagine? In the White House. I don't know if you could tell in that, but I was more nervous standing in front of the President than I was in 56 hours of battle. I guarantee you. But anyway, When I got back to my unit, all of a sudden now I'm somebody. I don't know any more about anything than about world politics or whatever. Certainly soldiers aren't involved in politics. They shouldn't be. They're above all that. They just perform their duties. But there was asked the question, how did our young draftees perform in Vietnam? I couldn't answer that because I was only with a few Special Forces career soldiers. And when I was over there, I was by myself with indigenous soldiers, so I couldn't answer that question. And I felt like I needed to. So after I got a battlefield commission, I volunteered to go back to Vietnam as a company commander. And so I went. It took it was difficult for me to go back. They didn't want me to go back because they thought there'd be, I know it's kind of crazy thinking, but I'm still a soldier, but they thought maybe I'd get killed or captured, and they didn't want that. And I told them, well, I don't want to get killed or captured, but I'm going back. But anyway, I took over this rifle company. There's supposed to be about 144 men in it. We were down to a little over 100. And I was 28 years old then. And so they called the company commander the old man. I was really the old man because the average age of that rifle company was just under 19. Imagine that. I had 100 guys, no senior sergeants. They were all 18 years old. A couple were 19, a couple were 20, and I'm an old man at 28. So you know averages. They were just under 19 when they averaged all of our ages in there. And I'm thinking, whoa, what do they know? 11 weeks ago, before they were here, they were in high school, just like you. And you never know. They didn't know they were going to be doing what they were doing. And I want to tell you that of all of the things I've ever done in my life, before I went to war and after, the thing that I admire most was leading those 18-year-old men, let me tell you. And they got the job done. I can tell you stories that you would almost not believe them because they're so powerful that they looked out for each other. I remember the first time we got shot at, they didn't know what to do really. They're shooting at us. I said, well, shoot back, get them, go, man. And they, really? And when they saw the enemy run, let me tell you, they got it. Those guys were amazing. So I'm here as a Medal of Honor recipient because they asked me to come here and we started this, but the most honorable thing that this medal has given me was the opportunity to tell you and others those kinds of experiences that you can't imagine. And I hope you never have to go to war. I pray that you never have to go to war. See these photos here, 166, I believe, photos. I knew every one of them. We only started making photos in 1999. There are 64 living recipients with Roger passing this morning. And there'll be a few more on the wall. We know that. But we use the Medal of Honor to explain to the folks like you that not that you have to have a Medal of Honor or even be in the military to do great things, but because of the circumstances in battle where the decision to do the right thing made a difference, is why we do this. To not be able to respond accordingly, people die. And every one of these recipients on the wall here were willing to give their life for somebody else. For those, look at the guys on the left and the right. For guys like you. There's a guy over there that's big and strong, and there's a guy that's not so big. Let me tell you, on the battlefield, I looked up on a hill one time as we were going down, and there was a chain of guys helping each other down. And the 190-pound guy couldn't have got there unless that 120-pound guy put his hand down. That's what this is all about. In everything you do in life, you can contribute. It's just that these experiences I have, they're indelibly imprinted in my brain that make me proud of our young people. And I guarantee you there wasn't a one of them that went over there. They didn't want to be there either. They were drafted, but they did the right thing. And I am able to tell you how I feel about them and their parents that didn't want them to be there. And we lost a couple. My biggest problem was losing more when somebody gets wounded, and so they go get them. First thing they think of is going to get them, like the police. They jump into a building that's in gunfire or something. They think about helping people. And firefighters that jump into a burning building. Those young men, and if we had women there, they'd have been the same way, I'm sure. We don't draft women yet. These were all draftees. None of them want to be there. But they are proud of their service, I guarantee. So Liz, we're doing all right? A few more minutes. I want to tell you all how fortunate that the center is for having these great people that work for us. Miss Liz Richards is our education person. We got Sparky Turner over there that's pulling this together. There she is over there. And Tanya's around, and Jen. And we've got people that believe in this so much. If you read our mission statement back there, it is so appropriate this time in our nation's history to remember the sacrifices made for this great country and to ensure that those extraordinary deeds are remembered forever. And the reason why we do that, some of you say, I've heard different stories about our past. We shouldn't be honoring those because they had little flaws. Let me tell you, everybody's got a flaw. Is there anybody here that believes they don't have a flaw, personal flaw? I didn't see a hand go up. Nobody is going through this life, this world, without having a problem. What you're trying to do in your part of your life is to figure out how we're fit into the rest of the world. And in school and in other places, we need to have folks tell you how to think and never let anyone tell you what to think. I don't care who it is. If you have the very basics of how to think and know that whatever you do, whatever action you do, good or bad, has consequences, and you evaluate those consequences, you'll do the right thing. Everybody here knows what is the right thing and the wrong thing on things that matter. Now, we have some laws, and unless you read the book, you don't know if you can turn left in front of a car coming this way. That's a law, right? So we have folks that tell us, Chief, that you shouldn't do that because you cause an accident. That's not what I'm talking about, right and wrong. That's a civil issue that gets sorted out, and you'll be smarter when you pay your fine. But The other thing is to make decisions in first of all, what you want to do, and think about whether you can do that. There's some people says you can do anything you want to do. That's not totally true. You hear that from your mother and father and few people. If you don't know biology, you aren't going to be a doctor, right? So that's a limit. We all have limitations. I wasn't real good in biology. I loved history. I could do math okay. But we all work within what we can do best. And I believe we need to have more plumbers, electricians, more truck drivers, more mechanics, more police. I heard that, Chief. Police, firemen. We need people that can do things with their hands and their brains, right? And that is why you go to school. That's why you listen to your parents. If your parents tell you something, I get sideways with some parents. They want you to be like them. But you got to look around and says, well, they raised me, and maybe they're not doing a good job with that, right? My parents did okay, but at my age, when I was your age, I didn't think they did. But anyway, I look back on it, and they were great, great parents. And they didn't encourage me to go to college, and we didn't have the money to go to college. Back in those days, it wasn't all that expensive, but things were expensive. And so I decided to go in the Army because I had great admiration for my father, who was in the Army, my uncles who fought in World War II in Korea, and Sergeant Irwin, the active duty military instructor, Centennial High School. I like the CROTC guys, but Centennial did a good job in this color guard. I'm kind of partial to that. You understand what that is, but but I want to say, being in disagreement and having rivalries is healthy and it's good. We disagree about some things, but that doesn't mean we're enemies, does it? We're all in the same community. And politics, the center is not a political entity. In fact, it prohibits us from talking politics at a nonprofit. And that's the way it should be. We only talk about the facts and help people make decisions. Then when you make the decisions, you vote for whoever you want to or be whatever you want. That's the fact. We're helping you that way. But I am comfortable in being able to say that if you think things through and you look at the consequences of doing certain things, you're going to go the right way. The world is not warm and fuzzy. Have you been looking at the news? It's scary out there. There's a lot going on. And if you think that we shouldn't be prepared, then you're not really thinking of the consequences, or you're thinking using unrealistic values. Why are this happening around the world? I don't know. But I do know that one of the reasons that it made us so strong as a nation is our potential adversaries are horrified at free-thinking people. Does that make sense? They don't know how to handle free-thinking people. So this is what we do here. we allow you the opportunity to look at these faces, wonder what they were like when they were 16, 17 years old, 18. Is any 18-year-olds here? Not many. Are you an old guy for the school? Because I was the youngest guy in Centennial when I graduated, 17. But no, every one of these men on the wall here were kids. And I got to know them really well. I know a little bit about their life as a young, because we talk a little bit about, we don't talk about war. I've never heard a war story from any one of these men. Never. And when they pass, when I was president of Medal of Honor Society, when someone passed, we sent a copy of the citation to remind our fellow Medal of Honor recipients what they did. But we don't talk about it to each other. Not that we're ashamed of it, but what do you tell somebody that's got decorated just like you? They're the same, right? You're all the same. Bragging is not good. Performing is good. Everyone sees you. And every one of you, everyone in this room is a mentor. You are, to someone smaller, younger. For whatever reason, they're going to look at somebody here as a mentor. What kind of a person do you want to be, and how you want to be remembered as a mentor? I'd say you want to be good. You should. If you don't, then you got a little adjustment to do in your brain. You are all mentors. You got little brothers and sisters. Got neighborhood kids down the road that are younger. They're going to look at you, see you in that uniform, and oh, I want to be like him or her. That's the thing. What kind of a person you want to be? And I think one of the things that we're going to walk away from today, me personally, is knowing that we reached a few more folks out there that I know are going to walk away and say, I want to be like one of these guys here. And again, you do not have to be in the military. It's a great occupation. You don't have to have a Medal of Honor. There's only 64 living Medal of Honor recipients. There's not very many. How many United States senators are there living? I mean, in the job? Somebody knows. You learn civics? 100, right? 100. How many are retired? There's a bunch out there. There's 64 Medal of Honor recipients. That's all there is. And they're up there in age like me. I'm almost 80. And you don't live forever. Did somebody tell you that? So the short time of your life here, and if you live to be 100, it's a short time. Do all you can to make people honor you, because when they honor you, then you're going to honor them, because you're going to continue. Just like Roger Donlan's quote about the gift to God is how we honor him. And this is important. Several of these men on here, Roger was one of them, had strong belief in faith. That's not a requirement. That's their individual right. To believe in something is so powerful. Whatever that is, you choose the right thing. And we're not faith-based here because we're an educational nonprofit. But patriotism is the love of country. I would take it one step further for all of you listening, that believing in something that is greater than yourself is what makes this a better place. Because when you're willing to give your life for somebody else, that is a statement. Because in this country, we don't do it because we'll get rewarded. We do it because we know those next to us will also do it for us. And let me tell you, there is no stronger bond that veterans have. and law enforcement and firefighters and those. They are willing to give their life. Now, not everybody, what is it? Is it a guardian personality that they call it for those that want to do those things? That's a personality issue. I mean, a situation. Not everybody has that makeup. I wanted to do things for people. Most of the people in the police and the fire, they want to do things to help people. We've got to have folks like that. And you've got to respect them and honor them for what they are willing to do for people they don't even know. Will you do that for those that you know, or will you do it for those that you don't know? That's the key. Ask yourself some of these questions. I look forward to a continued relationship through the center with each of you. And our staff is very willing to make connections, answer questions, get to me as much as possible, and I will answer those questions. So we're going to have questions right now. Liz will start, Ms. Richards will start with that. So I will answer anything you ask me, period.
Great. What an opportunity we have to personally get to ask questions to a Medal of Honor recipient. So we're going to start with the cadets in Kentucky because they are on a time schedule and we want to honor that, but we want to give them an opportunity to ask questions. And so while they're asking their questions, others here in this room can think of yours, and then you'll be shown the way around to the microphone. And then those who are watching online can submit questions through the question and answer box, and we will make sure that Mr. Dix answers those. So at this time, we're going to turn our camera to the group in Kentucky and let the first one ask a question.
How did your service to your country affect your opinion of America?
So how did your service to our country affect your opinion of America?
How did our service, my service in the country affect my opinion? I'll tell you, I'll elaborate a little bit more in what I said, and that is that I have the greatest respect for those young men that I fought with, and to know that they would be willing to give up their life for each other is something that keeps me going, knowing that we have, that's who we build in this country. That's who we raise, as people that think like that. So me, I've done a lot of jobs. This country, this great country, allows me to do what I want to do. And working on the center is very special. Some countries, you can't put something like this together. They just won't let you.
Great. Do we have a next question?
Which part of the war do you think changed you the most?
Can you repeat your question?
Which part of the war do you think changed you the most?
So which part of the war changed you the most?
Which part of the war? The one thing that, without getting into the politics of the war, is the sacrifices made by men and women in this country in Vietnam. The unfortunate thing is that war was won many times over, is our politicians didn't allow the service members to have that victory. And I somewhat resent that, because I believe that if we're going to war and willing to spend resources, national treasure, and treasure includes, more importantly, the lives of young, we go in to win.
That's right. Good question. Thank you for that great answer. Next question.
Besides receiving the Medal of Honor, what was the most memorable memory in service?
Beside receiving the Medal of Honor, what is your next greatest memory of service?
Oh, you know, of the service, my next greatest memory was working with those young draftees. And of course, when we lose a few of the old soldiers, the career special forces guys, it was always tough to let their family know that they were lost. And the camaraderie that we build in the service is you can't measure it. The friendship lasts forever. Just like in other high-risk jobs like the police and fire, they stick together because they know the right language. But that's about what I can say.
Greater love has no man than to lay his life down for another. Next question from those in Kentucky.
Can you discuss the importance of mental and physical resilience in the Army and life in general?
Can you discuss the importance of mental and physical fitness in life in the Army and in general?
Oh, don't get me started. They beat me up bad because they needed to. They needed to make us the toughest person mentally and physically. And because I don't know if anybody told you, but war is not like those video games. War is hell. And when somebody is trying to kill you, you have to be better than they are. And a couple times, they were getting into hand to hand. You're saying, man, did I do enough? Am I going to get through these 3 or 4 guys trying to hang on to me because they're trying to capture us? No, physical ability, your strength, and your mental is tied right to your physical, because if you are confident in your physical ability, you'll be clear, sharp, and willing to do anything. But if you're kind of on the other side of this, your brain's going to be just as thick as your body. You're not going to be clear. So I trust each of you. I challenge each of you for your own good, whether you're going in the military or anything. Walk when you can, ride a bicycle when you can, because let me tell you, I rode a bicycle to Rye over there to get an ice cream. 44 miles. My buddy and I, we didn't think of it. There were papers to Belmont and all around from the north side. You know, and I just tell you this, that a lot of my physical ability was tied to when I developed my body young. Some things you can't catch up on if you wait too long. You just can't do it. Think about that. Don't wait and say, oh, that's the way I'm going to be later. Do it now. Be the toughest you can be. Mow the grass. Do things that make you feel good.
Excellent. All right. Do we have another question from Kentucky?
What lessons have you learned in your military service that you still keep with you today?
What lessons have you learned in your military service you still keep with you today? I think we heard a lot of that today, but can you answer that question?
About what? I'm sorry, I didn't.
What lessons did you learn in the military that you carry into your life today?
You know, the military and even at your level in the junior ROTC, you learn to be a part of a team. And if any piece of that team falls apart, the rest of the team is at risk. And teamwork is the most important. And the other thing is, when I was on a Special Forces A team, we were all pretty good physically and whatever, but there was always somebody that was better doing something than anyone else could do. Give them the credit for doing that. They will do it for you. There's some that were better welding. They learned it on the farm or ranch or somewhere. Others were good because they knew math and they could help you out when you're buying a vehicle and paying too much or something. No, there was folks were mentoring each other, and in special forces, we went when we weren't out doing our physical training and our other individual training. We cross-trained. We had 5 skills, and those were 5 experts, 2 on each team of that skill, and 2 officers. They gave cross-training every moment they had free time, whether it was map reading or other things you already thought you knew. It doesn't hurt to be more proficient. Navigation, you got to know where the sun comes up every over there every morning. It comes up same place, goes down the same place. If someone says to walk to the west or the east or the north, you got to know where that is. That helps. All of those things help in everyday life.
All right, that was a great answer. We thank you for that. Do we have another student? And while these students are finishing up, we just are getting down on their line. Any Pueblo JROTC cadets, you guys can make your way around and get ready to ask questions next for this group. All right, if you have a question, go down the center aisle and around. All right, next one up in Kentucky. Come on to your camera and ask your question.
How did you work well under so much pressure?
How did you work well under so much pressure?
Oh, a lot of people ask me how I worked under that one battle that you're talking about, where we had 5 or 6 guys at one time, up to 20, and had about 600 enemy. Confidence. We had more to shoot at than they did. You know, that helps. But, you know, surviving is, and making sure the other guys survive too. And let me tell you, I would not be here. On that picture of me in the back there's one Chinese guy who worked for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He looked out for me, I looked out for him. He's here in the United States, not doing real well because of health, but we worked under pressure because we had training and confidence. And if you're in the military or in anything you do in civilian life, you're offered training, right? Never say, oh, I do it different, but this is ridiculous, training like this. No, you train how you're going to fight, because you are going to fight how you trained, period. When there's pressure and you can't think of what to do, you're going to do just how you were trained. You can apply that to civilian life as well.
Great question. Next question from Kentucky.
Share your thoughts on the bond between veterans and the importance of supporting them.
Your thoughts on the bond between veterans and the importance of supporting them. Bond between veterans and the importance for us in supporting them.
You know, I didn't get the first part. Somehow my hearing went bad.
What do you think about the bond between veterans?
Bond.
Yeah, bond, yes.
Between
veterans.
Okay. I think I kind of addressed that one, and I'm sure that question was thought of before, but I addressed it. But the bond between veterans is something that is there. You can't explain why people gravitate to each other. I've seen veterans, Vietnam veterans mainly, and some of the global war on terror veterans in a crowd. And they see each other and they go talk to each other like, I didn't know you knew him. Well, I didn't know him, but you got some bond there. And the reason why you do, and you've heard that veterans don't like to talk, especially Vietnam, veterans, they say they don't like to talk about their experience or World War II or Korea or whatever. It's not so much that they're ashamed of it or it was overwhelming or frightening. It's so much happened that someone that wasn't there wouldn't ever understand it. So they choose not to try to explain it. That's simple. So if you've got a father, a grandpa, or a grandmother, or whatever that was in a war and they don't talk about it, that's more like the reason. You know, they're not ashamed of it, not afraid to bring back memories. It's just that you wouldn't know. And there is no way I can tell you how it was under pressure without you being there. There is no way you can imagine it.
We talk a lot about supporting veterans in our educational materials online. There's some great resources there. We encourage you to look at how you can support your local veterans. All right, next question from Kentucky.
What message would you like to pass on to future generations?
I think you've been saying that message, but in brief, what message, singular, would you like to pass on to?
Yeah, that is why we're here, period, is the message to our young people. In a lot of ways, I'm pretty blunt. I've been told I'm a little too blunt sometimes. Kids get bad rap. So you guys can't handle it. It's the parents that need to get and teach their kids things. I can't teach you anything about other than experiences. It's part of the puzzle of growing up. But your parents, and I dwell on this because let's face it, some of you will be parents very soon. It just works that way. And you need to take charge of your kids and give them the benefit of the good and the bad that you experienced. Don't pass them off to somebody else to do it for. The police have enough to do. Teachers have enough to do. They should be teaching your skills, your math, your reading, writing, arithmetic, and all that stuff. Parents need to be parents. And those of you that become parents, take it on. And don't be ashamed of whatever it is that you do.
So
Tell them right and wrong.
Excuse me, a powerful message to parents. And kids, you can go home and say that Drew Dix said they got a bad rap, but it's the parents that need to train and work with their kids. We understand and agree with that. All right, winding down our questions in Kentucky, we're going to give you a few more and then move to Pueblo. While the Pueblo cadets are asking their questions, we'll ask our online recipients to enter your questions into the question and answer tab. Give your questions to your teacher or leader who's there and let them enter them in on your behalf, or if you're watching singular, you can by yourself enter your questions. All right, next in Kentucky.
Do you have any advice for new people joining the military?
Any advice for people, young people joining the military? I think you've been dealing with that, so.
I'll just comment one more thing. When you join the military, you're going to do things or be asked to do things that you don't want to do. Do them. You don't have a choice. Even if the military gives you a choice, those mentors, those sergeants, they know what's best for you, especially if they've been in a war zone. Don't take the easy way out and say, oh, I don't have to do that because. No, you ought to pay attention. And any parent shouldn't send a kid to the military because they're going to whip them into shape. Times are a little different now. They can actually leave. I'm not a big fan of that because on the battlefield, let me tell you, you can't decide you aren't going to do it anymore. So, tie in physical, mental that we've talked about, discipline. That's what a military is. And when you sign on for the hardships of that military. Because you aren't going to join, if you're joining to go to college or something, that's the wrong reason. If you wanted to join maybe you don't know what else you want to do, but if you join, keep in mind, you're joining something that is bigger than individually of people in it. It's a big deal. They're highly trained, and when you join, you can make it better than it is now. Pick that as your mission. Make it better.
All right. Looks like we have answered those questions for the Kentucky group, and now we're going to move to our own Pueblo JROTC cadets.
Hi, Mr. Diggs.
So
Truly
you're
an
going to
honor
have
be here
to,
with you.
I don't know whether it's acoustics, I'll blame it on that, but also might be my almost 80 years old ears that have been around a lot of noise. So
Sorry about that. Really close to the mic. Truly an honor to be here with you, hearing you speak today. When it comes to servicemen and women currently serving today, I hear a lot of stories about them obviously giving a great sacrifice to their country while they're in the service. But when they get out, they feel as though they're not doing enough anymore. How do you think that kind of can help maybe? Obviously, they're not all going to be Medal of Honor recipients or co-founders of the Center for American Values, but what do you think when getting out of the service they can do to continue to serve their country?
So basically what you're asking is, and I heard most of it, is what can a veteran do to make a difference when they get out? Is that basically what it is? It's a good question. I think the veterans need to get involved with schools when the teachers will invite them in there, or the staff, to talk about how things are, not about war. In fact, let's face it, not every veteran gets shot at or pulls the trigger, but they're just as important as those. In fact, maybe more important, because we don't want to go to war. And a lot of times we aren't going to war because they figure we have a strong military, and that's what we need to have. Our young veterans that are getting out need to get involved in the communities. And it's a little harder now than it was after World War II, because what was there, 25 million veterans or after World War II and Korea. But there were a lot of uncles and fathers and grandpas that were all in it, so they were together. Now it's different. We're a volunteer military, so they join and they come back. The veteran needs to come back as if they were almost drafted, not that it was their job. You know what I mean? They were proud to have served. That's what I think, and I believe that every young person in the United States should serve in some capacity of service, not the military necessarily. What we would do with 40 million people, but they could be in cadet programs for law enforcement or firefighters or other things for a period of time. And shoot, you learn something, and maybe that will be an occupation for you. I guess I answered it right.
So initially going into service, you mentioned that family and college were really influencing you to go into the service, but what was a personal reason for joining or just doing it?
What would somebody join besides?
Well, you mentioned that family and education kind of influenced going into service, but was there a personal reason, and did that change over time?
For me?
Yes.
Oh, I honestly believe, I really believe that there are some of you out there that are made up with the guardian kind of mentality, wants to help people, and some of you aren't. That's the way it is. I'm not saying one's good or bad. I wanted to, because I respected my uncles and my grandfather, who was in the Navy in World War II, and my father, to honor them. And that's why I did it. I had no idea I was going to stay in forever. In 20 years, and you're look at things, 20 years is forever. Believe me, I retired from 3 different things. So 20 years is just a small part of what you can do in a 80-year lifespan. So it's not for everybody, the military. Don't make it that way if you've been, I don't think I really can do this. It's not for everybody. Now, the recruiters wouldn't like me saying that because they want to sign up people that are just eligible. But I think if we continue with a warrior class of people, it's not offensive to say warrior class is important. It doesn't mean that to be successful, you have to go out and kill folks. No, you can be the biggest, baddest, strongest. That's what it is in the military. It's not like just saying you're going to dress cool, sunglasses and all that. No, you know that you're the biggest, baddest person there is. Now, not every job in the military is physical. You know, we got a lot of technology stuff now, and we got to have clear brains to make that missile track just the way it's supposed to. If you have that ability, fine. But don't think that you're going to go from where you are right now to a desk job. You should go through that, making yourself the toughest one there is, because just like in the Marine Corps, everybody's a Marine, even if you're a truck driver or a missile guy, gal. You're a Marine. You can go to the front line. If you got it in you, do it. If you don't, do something else.
All right, I'm going to move to an online question. And this is from a young man named Johnny. He asked, can you explain in detail what you received your Medal of Honor for?
Well, it's kind of hard to do, but online is a wonderful access of information. The citation is there. But basically, it was for rescuing people, about 14 civilians that were captured or soon to be captured. And as I told you before, you receive medals of honor for risking your life to save someone. In the pursuit of rescuing those people, had to get to them. And so a lot of the action was for eliminating the enemy. They didn't want to be captured or give up. So had to, what it is, you have to do, be better than them. Look up online. Got any questions after you read that, get back to Ms. Richards and she will pass it on to me.
Right. And also we have a lot of video available through our website and through our education modules. And there is a video on Drew Dick's life, and it goes into detail his service and what he felt like, the fact that he didn't even know he was receiving a Medal of Honor. And so it's quite an honor to have people nominate you and the process that it takes. But all of that information is online for you. All right, a question from our Pueblo cadet.
All right, first off, Mr. Dix, I just want to say it's an honor hearing you speak today. And secondly, I just want to ask, like, how does it feel being recognized as like a hero every day of your life? And like, what was your like motivation and like driving force behind doing what you've done for our country?
So I think I got that is how do you go from being a hero back and get into your everyday life again? Is that basically it? Well, that's a very good question. First of all, I don't consider myself a hero because when I was in Special Forces, I admired all those NCOs and officers, mainly the NCOs, because officers weren't permanent part of Special Forces in those days. And I was humbled to be recognized. Can you imagine all the people that you admire, all of a sudden, I'm a young guy, I'm 25 then, and they're older guys, Special Forces are older guys, admiring you for it. It's tough. You can't get a big head over it. I don't think I ever did. It was real hard to be an everyday Special Forces soldier after having the Medal of Honor. In fact, I eventually got out for that reason because so a lot of the secret missions that we were going on to the team, they were worried about me where people knew who I was. And if they were tracking me, they would be giving up the mission for the team. That was, I don't think, justified reason, but it's what it was. And I got out of the Army for that reason, and I continued working doing the same stuff with other folks. It didn't matter. One thing I will tell you, though, it's very perceptive, your question. I went back to that rifle company in Vietnam, right? All 18-year-old kids. They just like you, the same. The hair's shorter because they trimmed it all off, but the same stature of all of you guys. So I got off the helicopter, and they didn't get a helicopter but once a week there. And off of the helicopter came a bundle of newspapers. Thought I had a leadership challenge when I looked down and saw the headlines as former Medal of Honor recipient taking over a company in Vietnam. Can you imagine what those young guys were thinking? Am I going to go out there and get them all killed or something? I mean, it was a leadership challenge, but when they realized that I was looking out for them and the way I operated was successful for them, it was okay, but it was a challenge. So everywhere you go, there's a perception of how you're supposed to behave and be. You know, it's just a part of having notoriety.
What about when you have to live your everyday life, like go home? And does your wife call you a hero, or how does that work?
My wife?
What about when you go home is part of his question too.
Let me tell you, I do my chores. You know, it is a little tougher if you go into a community, because if you ask for something, they think you want something special treatment. But what you want is to be treated just like everybody else. That's a tough thing.
All right, we're going to go now to another panelist online. And the question is, for those who do not join the military, what is the best way for us to serve our nation?
I wish there were programs that would help you pick an avenue, you know, like military service satisfies an obligation. I wish there was programs for every one of you to be able to sign on to before you went to college, or especially if you don't care anything about college. Go somewhere and learn your skill, or to find out if you want to be an electrician or a plumber or whatever. I think that's what we should have in this country. It's really tough because people would come up in arms and say, oh, they can't make me do it. Well, no, nobody should be able to make you do it. You should be able to want to do it, because you're young and you got a lot of time left, lots of time. You got to catch up with me. You got 60 some years of doing stuff, and find something that you like doing. Always do what you like doing if you can choose where you want to go for a career path. Don't do something just because someone else wants you to be something that you can't be. You'll be set up for failure. You know, pick individual goals that are reachable. You'll feel good about yourself.
All right, question from Pueblo.
What do you think you would have done if you didn't join the military?
I didn't get that one.
What do you think you would have done if you didn't join the military?
What would I have done? That's a real good question. In fact, I wanted to be a forest ranger. I love hunting and fishing. And you know why, what discouraged me? Now, in those days, you had to have a degree in counting to be a forest ranger. I could do numbers, but I didn't like accounting. So I didn't want to be a forest ranger. That's who they hired. You had to have a degree in accounting to be a forest ranger. And then I went in the military and I decided that's home for me. I felt good about it. When I got out, I did the same kind of stuff I was doing in the military. I found what I wanted to do. I found what I was comfortable with. I found what I liked and fairly good at it. So that's where I stayed. But if I hadn't gone in the military, I probably wouldn't have been a forest ranger. I'd probably just been a game warden or something. But I liked to hunt and fish when I was a kid. I could tell you what it was like at 12 and 13 years old, taking a rifle and a shotgun both on my bicycle, going out to where Lowe's is. You know where Lowe's is? There used to be a good place to shoot rabbits and stuff. I love hunting and fishing. I don't anymore, but I did then.
All right. This is a great place to hunt and fish. We're going to ask another Pueblo cadet question.
First off, JROTC, it's really nice to see you. Thanks for being here and all this.
A little bit closer to the mic.
My bad. I was gonna ask if you had to do all of it over again, what would you do differently?
If I had to do it all over again in the military,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd done anything different because I went where they sent me. And you have to do that. I mean, that's the way it is. I think it's still kind of that way. And so I probably, wouldn't do anything different. Opportunity, and if you could call it opportunity or misfortune, to be involved in big battles and that sort of thing. Look at everything as an opportunity. My quote, nothing's ever bad as you think it might be. I wrote it, that's my quote for two reasons. One, I believe that things could be worse, but you got to make it better. But also at your age, how many times have you heard a rumor about Miss So-and-so or whatever is going to do this in the class? And it never happens. Not the way you are told. It's never as bad as you make it up to be. Sometimes you're the worst enemy. You make things, see it happen before you make a decision.
All right, thank you. Next.
It's an honor to be able to ask you and listen to you speak today, sir. So I thank you for your time. And I must ask, so what advice would you give to someone who is taking on a leadership role who doesn't have previous experience in leadership?
So what advice, if you're taking on a leadership role and you don't have
Any experience
my
in that?
experience?
What advice would you give to a young person taking on a leadership role with no experience doing that?
Oh, well, I think leadership is just what that is. It's leading, and you have to be fair, be tough, and be fair. Let's say, and if you're talking about being a leader of more than 2 or 3 people, not just one-on-one, then you have to be fair to all of them. You absolutely cannot show a preference, even if they're your best buddy. And especially in jobs that are so important, like in the military, life and death, or any job like that. You've got to be fair, and you've got to be tough, and you've got to convince them that you would have done it too, right? You're not just saying, oh, go do that. I don't have to anymore because I'm a foreman or something. You don't do it that way. And you don't have to go by example and do it for them. Help them out if you have to, and you're experienced. You don't have to do it for them to get them to do it. You have to convince them to do. That's what leadership is convincing someone to do a job that's distasteful and like it. You got to make them feel good about the accomplishment of that job, no matter how small it is. And if you find yourself in leadership positions and even in JROTC, practice that a little bit. Practice it. You don't have to tell them, hey, I'm practicing this, what Drew said. No, just practice it. And to be fair and honest, do you give chance to give people orders yet? Do you do that, or you just have the rank? Do they do that? Okay. Well, you've got to, you're starting up, but you need to be not afraid of taking leadership on, and you have to, there's the cowboy ethics around here on a board, be tough but fair. Best thing I can think of.
Thank you. We have a question now from Virginia, and the question is, did you have any favorite stories or books that you read as a child or a young person that inspired you to be brave?
And I like reading, actually. If you've all heard the question, the book, I bought a couple books with my own money, my paper route money. I bought The Count of Monte Cristo when I was like 11, and Kontinki. First two books I ever bought with my own money. They were adventurous somewhat, and Kontinki really was. That's what I did. So we read a lot in high school, junior high, they called it in those days. But it was your typical books that everybody, what are we, Gulliver's Travels and things like that. And they used it so you could talk about the stories, and the teachers would use those books for real life experiences to relate to what you're learning in school. I thought reading was a good thing. None of us had, when you're a kid, have much time to do that because we were outdoors an awful lot, and we darn sure didn't have these things where they tell you what you read. And no one can tell you what you read. Remember what I said. You read, you do things, and listen to people that tell you how to think, not what to think. Books are a good example of telling you life experiences.
Love that question. Next one I'm going to take from California. And the question is, how do we elevate the importance of patriotism to the younger generation?
Yeah, how do we handle patriotism? First of all, I think it's unfortunate, but for whatever reason, patriotism seems to be not so popular thing. It's like a weakness for some people. And I can't figure that out because patriotism, if you think about it, is one of the most underappreciated acts that you can do. And it's ties with honor. If you honor something or your country, you do it through patriotism. Honoring someone else is not patriotism, but it's similar. But honoring your country because it gives you the opportunity to be about anything you want to be. And let me tell you what's going on right now. You can be anything you want to be, and the law guarantees it. There ought to be more patriots now than ever in our nation's history because they'll let you do anything you want to be. But I don't think that's sustaining. It might help you immediately or some kind of escape or gratification, but long term, it won't work. So that's as far as I go on that subject. But there is There should be more patriots. Now, every one of those people coming across the border should be a patriot because they're finally somewhere away from some oppression. That's what they're saying. They ought to love this country and not just what it is. They ought to love to be a part of it. And I believe that's in the early 1700s, when people were coming to this country, they got zero help. They had to, whatever they did to get on a boat, to get here, there was no country that gave them any comfort. They did it on their own, but the country gave them the opportunity to be anything they wanted to be. That is a profession, not physically, personally anything they wanted to be, because they didn't have time for that. They had to eat and provide families. Be a patriot. Don't be ashamed of it. And those patriots that gave us this country were not perfect people, but boy, they built a pretty good country and a foundation, and anticipated where the weaknesses would be. That's where we got to shore it up, because they had no idea. Freedom of speech. This is where I get probably criticized. Freedom of speech by those founders was freedom of speech against a government that might be oppressive, because they had England in mind, right? You can talk about your government and not go to jail. You can talk about a religion and not go to jail, because it wasn't a government religion. It wasn't for disrupting a peaceful event with some ridiculous stuff. That is, I guarantee you, they never even thought of what some of the uses of free speech are protected under. Spitting on a police officer, freedom? No, this shouldn't be allowed. Think about it. Be patriotic, not be ashamed of it, and think about what the Constitution gave us. And don't be embarrassed. If you have a question, call the center or call your teacher and ask. Think about the answer, but call someone and say, hey, I'm confused about this, what Drew said or whatever. We'll give you the answer. We won't tell you how to think in your situation. We'll just tell you what history was.
Thank you for that answer. To California, of all places. That was a great answer. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time, and so we need to close the event. But before we do that, let's give a round of applause and thanks to Drew Dix. Thank you. And also, I just want to mention a few in closing. And those of you who still have remaining questions, please send those to the center. Those of you who are here can ask Drew yourselves. But we will answer those questions. And also, in addition to those questions, we'll send you a book of quotes and also Drew's book. So he was anxious to tell us that this morning. If you submit a question, we will send you that information, and we'll be glad to do that. We also have some educational materials on patriotism as well online, so we invite you to look at those. But just in closing, I would like to thank our co-founder, Brad Padula. If Brad is here, we thank you for what you do for this center. He's co-founder with Drew, and we want to thank him. Our executive director, Sparky Turner, she's behind me. And then we have here on the front row our Center for American Values board member, Henry Jones. Can you wave, Henry, so folks know who you are? And next to him is Miss Joan Anello, a very wonderful donor and sweet as can be lady you need to meet. And next to Joan is our Pueblo Police Chief, Chris Noller. Chris, can you wave for us? We're happy he's here. And then Honor Guard Sentinel Commander of the Relief for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is here with us, Tom Tudor, and he's to my left. We're thankful that he's here today to be part of our program. Thank you to all of our attendees here in the gallery, those who are online. We thank you for your support. Look forward to our next event. If you have never been to the Center for American Values, please come to the beautiful Riverwalk in Pueblo, Colorado, and see the most beautiful gallery of our nation's Medal of Honor recipients and the wonderful way they're honored here. We offer educational programs and news resources online. Pueblo is the home of heroes because we have the most Medal of Honor recipients that came from this town, and we are honored to have Drew Dix with us today. So at this, we'll conclude our event for today, and thank you all online, and we are now dismissed. Those of you who are in attendance here, we welcome you to finish off the refreshments and talk to Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix yourselves and enjoy yourselves after we conclude. Thank you.